Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we move on to another topic regarding the origin of Kamaja Rupas. Yesterday's topic was frequently interrupted due to our power supply. Hope it will be okay today. So there will be some questions regarding the yesterday's topic as well, which was quite interesting. Today also we will be discussing two different notions within the tradition about the arising of Kamaja Rupas. Yesterday discussion was the Kamma which produces Kamaja Rupas. What is the Kamma that produces Kamaja? Is all Kamaja Rupas are produced by the Patisandhi Kamma, or can some other Kammas also participate in this production? Then today's today's topic is about the arising. When and how. So, and based on this, there are two different opinions of the commentary and the Mula Tika. They are fully different from each other. Based on these opinions, how could we explain certain phenomena, other notions explained in the Theravada teachings? That would be our main concern today, topic explanation. So, the topic is given as arising of Kamaja Rupas. We have two notions, notion number 1, then notion number 2. Then based on these notions, we shall explain two other fundamentals that we shall, so first fundamental 1, then and fundamental 2. So what are these fundamentals? We shall know them later on, because based on these two notions, how do we explain some other two fundamentals? That is our purpose here, and to show what makes more sense. But I am unable to give you an exact statement or even my opinion on what would be better, but it is quite interesting to see how these notions are interconnected. The fundamentals are interconnected. So the first notion is now the commentarial notion, explanation about the arising of Kamaja Rupas. There are basically two ideas with the commentary. Attakata. Commentary. Right? Commentary has two basic notions with regard to this. The lifespan of a consciousness, please give attention to 2.141 Navan. The lifespan of a consciousness is called Chittakkana. A lifespan is called of a consciousness is called Chittakkana. I shall be using these terminologies because it's quite easy to express. We normally call it a mind moment, Chittakkana. It is constituted with 3 sub-mind moments called Anuchittakkana. So one Chittakkana is of 3 Anuchittakkana. Anuchittakkana is sub-mind moments. One mind moment is constituted with 3 sub-mind moments. What are these sub-mind moments? Genesis, arising, persisting, titi, and vanishing. So arising, persisting, vanishing. These are the 3 sub-mind moments. According to the commentarial explanation, they are equal in time. They are equal in their time. They are Upada, arising moment, Titi, persisting moment, and the Banga, vanishing moment. These are just stages or time periods of one full mind moment. Then Kamajarupas arise in, this is the point now, Kamajarupas arise in the body of living beings during each sub-mind moment, except the period proximate to death. Now we'll leave apart the period proximate close to death because a different phenomenon happens on that occasion. But now all the other moments, like starting from the Patisandhi rebirth, every sub-mind moment, Kamajarupas appear in our body. For example, if this is the first consciousness, now according to this explanation, consciousness has three phases: arising, persisting and vanishing. Arising, persisting and vanishing. So every consciousness has three phases, and Kamajarupas arise. Now these are the three phases, for instance. This is one phase. This is how we divide the phases of the consciousness. Kamajarupas arise in each and every sub-mind moment. Kamajarupas arise in each and every sub-mind moment. That is the first notion of the commentary. Right? Each and every sub-mind moment, Kamajarupas newly arise. And they keep on existing. So every sub-mind moment, Kamajarupas arise in our body. This is the first notion. The second fundamental is lifespan of any Rūpa Kalapa, including that of Kamajarupas, is 51 sub-mind moments. Now, a Rūpa Kalapa or a Rūpa after arising, it remains for a longer period than the consciousness, remaining longer period. In terms of sub-mind moments, it is 51 Anuchittakkana sub-mind moments. 51 sub-mind moments. Sub-mind moments. Sub-mind moments. This is mind moment. NM. SMM. Sub-mind moments. 51 sub-mind moments. Out of the 51, one moment for the genesis, one moment for the vanishing, 49 for the persisting. Rather than saying existing, we would call it persisting because the existence happens from the beginning. Persisting is the period where the Rūpa is deteriorating, its strength is deteriorating, and it moves towards the vanishing, death. So these are the 51. This is the explanation of the commentaries, and that's what we normally study in today's Abhidhamma teachings, right? Now, the next point. According to these fundamentals, Kamajarupas arise in each and every sub-mind moment starting from the arising moment of the Patisandhi Chitta. If this is the Patisandhi Chitta, starting from the arising moment of the Patisandhi Chitta, Kamajarupas arise in each and every sub-mind moment except that close to death. For instance, now the point is, now think about Kamajarupa. Now this is the arising phase, persisting phase, vanishing phase, because one mind moment has three phases: Uppada, Titi and Banga. That means Uppada, Titi, Vaya. Arising, persisting and vanishing. Arising, persisting and vanishing. Now, since arising takes only one sub-mind moment, during the second sub-mind moment of the Rūpa, it enters into the Titikana, persisting stage. It enters into the Titikana, the persisting stage. So, for instance, first Kamajarupas, which happen together with the arising of the Patisandhi Chitta, enters into its persisting phase, and first persisting phase during the persisting of the Chitta, Patisandhi Chitta, right? So now we have to keep in mind, these are the arising. Now we should not get mixed with the arising, persisting and vanishing of a consciousness. Arising, persisting and vanishing of a consciousness, and arising, persisting and vanishing of a Rūpa. They are two different things. Of both the realities, arising and vanishing consumes only one sub-mind moment. But the persisting phase is different. For the Rūpa, persisting is 49 sub-mind moment, while the consciousness has only 1 sub-mind moment. Now, as both of them have a same arising and vanishing phases, so first Kammaja Rūpa arise together with the Patisandhi Chitta, comes into the persisting phase together with the persisting of the Chitta, Patisandhi Chitta. So where they arose together, for example, if this is Chitta, Rūpa also arose together. When the Patisandhi Chitta came into the persisting stage, Rūpa also came into the persisting phase, but when the Patisandhi Chitta pass away, still it remains in the persisting phase. Right, that's the difference, and it passes away after a much longer period. Now, this is the point that we have to keep in mind. According to the commentaries, Rūpa enters into the persisting phase in its second sub-mind moment. And the entire Rūpa, if I couldn't tell that, entire Rūpa, if it is 51 sub-mind moments, it means it is equal to 17 mind moments, right? Because 51 sub-mind moment divided by 3 is 17 full mind moments, right? 17 full mind moments. Now, this is the first explanation notion of the prevailing notion in the commentaries, and that's what we normally study in today's Abhidhamma teaching. Now, today means these days, right, which is prevailing. Now another prevailing, now keep this in mind. I'll repeat again before we move on to the first fundamental. Now we are going to evaluate this next fundamental based on these two notions. Now what we did was, now keep in mind, every chitta, the lifespan of a chitta is one chittakana, one mind moment. Then it is constituted with 3 sub-mind moments, right? 3 sub-mind moments, anuchittakana. Rūpa has a lifespan of 51 sub-mind moments. It is equal to 17 mind moments. It's equal to 17 mind moments. The thing is, Rūpa takes now chitta arising, persisting and vanishing takes only sub-mind moment. While chitta takes only sub-mind moment, Rūpa for the arising and vanishing, it consumes only 1 sub-mind moment, while for the persisting, it takes 49 sub-mind moments. That is the difference between Rūpa and Nama. Then the next point is, Kammaja Rūpas arise in every sub-mind moment during the entire life except the period close to death. We'll just leave it up, right? So that is these are the fundamentals. Now based on these fundamentals, now we go into the fundamental 1. Fundamental number 1. What is this fundamental? It is regarding the mind consciousness, mano viññāna. Mano viññāna. Mano viññāna. MV. Mano viññāna. There is another fundamental stating that because mano viññāna in the Panchavokara realm of 5 aggregates, always associates the heart base. Always associate the heart base. Mano viññāna cannot arise depending on any other base. At the same time, it cannot arise without a base in the Panchavokara realm. Right? In the Arupa realm, it can. Mano viññāna, when associating a heart base, this is the fundamental. It always associates the heart base which has arisen together with the previous mind. Okay, I'll repeat again. A particular mano viññāna, it arises, persists and passes away according to the commentaries. This is if you take it as B consciousness, right? It associates the heart base. It associates a heart base. For example, if this is the heart base, HB, heart base. This heart base has to arise. It has arisen together with the previous mind moment. It has already passed away. Mind moment A, mano viññāna A, or whatever consciousness A. This together with the previous mind moment. So the same heart base. These heart bases are not 2. They are the same. Same heart base. Manovinyana arising together with the previous Manovinyana. These are two consciousness, but the same heart base. For example, heart base A, for instance. The fundamental is every Manovinyana, except close to the death, associates a heart base that has arisen. A heart base that has arisen together with the previous consciousness. But association happens only with this consciousness. Not this consciousness is not associating that particular heart base. The heart base, it associates, for example, this Manovinyana associates a heart base that has arisen together with the previous Manovinyana. Right? If this is A, for example, A minus Manovinyana. The rule is always the consciousness, Manovinyana, mind consciousness, associates a heart base that has arisen together with, that's the point here, together with. It means the previous consciousness and the heart base has arisen together. Previous consciousness and the heart base has arisen together. So why is this phenomenon? How do we explain this phenomenon? A very logical explanation would be that why one can ask the question, why B, consciousness B, is not associating a heart base that has arisen with A minus? Why is not associating the heart base which has arisen with A minus, a different heart base? For example, B, heart base B, HB, which has arisen together with A minus Manovinyana. Why is it not associating that heart base? Right? Why is it not associating that heart base? The explanation would be because Rūpa, when it gets older, its strength is deteriorating. Right? It weakens. Any reality weakens with the time, over the time. So it seems like Rūpa, the Vijnana, is associating a base that is in its full strength, fullest strength, I would call, fullest strength, the most strongest. Because if it has passed away, now this Rūpa which has arisen with this previous consciousness has come into the Titi phase, persisting phase. Persisting phase. Now, the Rūpa which has arisen with A minus has also entered the first persisting phase, but it has spent a much longer time. So it's much weaker than the heart base A, which has arisen together with the consciousness A. A minus, the heart base which arose with A minus, is much older than the heart base which arose with A. Then the question comes, why can't B associate a heart base that has arisen together with it? For example, if you take C, heart base C for instance, heart base C, HB, together with the consciousness B, why can't it associate this heart base? The tradition has an explanation. We can also bring an explanation for this. We can bring an explanation. Why is that? Normally, Rūpa is stronger at the persisting phase. Rūpa is stronger at the persisting phase, in the persisting phase. Consciousness is stronger at the arising phase. Consciousness is stronger at the arising phase. There is a reason given in the books for this. There is a reason given in the books. That is the obtaining of the supporting factors, supporting causes. Now think about consciousness, Vijnana. Vijnana arises and passes away, right? It gets the support of the base it is associating and many other causes like the past habits and so forth. One of the most important supports are given by the previous consciousness. Previous consciousness supports the arising or happening of the following consciousness. We call it Anantara Pachaya, the support. The previous consciousness is called Anantara Pachaya. The force, the power is called Anantara Pachaya Sati, the actual support given. So normally a consciousness gets its full support, entire support at the arising moment, not during the persisting moment. Therefore, it's much stronger during the arising period. Consciousness is powerful at the arising phase, genesis. How about Rūpa? Rūpa arises and stays for a longer period and passes away. Right? Arises, stays for a longer period and passes away. It does get support at the beginning. For instance, Kamma, Chitta, or whatever the cause, it's supporting, it's giving its support at the beginning. But there are some additional supports given at the persisting phase. Whenever it enters into the persisting phase, it is given some additional support. What are these additional supports? Additional support given by Tejo Dhatu. This is not for the arising, but for strengthening. Given by Tejo. Given by Oja, food. And also given by the Chitta, consciousness. Nama, I would call. Nama, mentalities. All these in terms of Pacha, Jati, Pachaya. Tejo Dhatu, Oja and Nama are supporting the Rūpa. Supporting the Rūpa at the persisting phase. Therefore, Rūpa is stronger than during its persisting phase than in its arising phase. That is why Rūpas do not clash each other, like the sensitivity, sense object does not clash with each other at the arising moment. Rūpa doesn't become a base for the consciousness at its arising moment because it's quite weak. It comes to its fullest strength at the persisting, whenever it's entered in the persisting phase, because all the support is given. It gets all the support at that moment, not at the arising moment. It does get the support, but some supports are still lacking, especially of Tejo Dhatu, Oja and Chitta, or conscious or mentalities. Therefore, the Rūpa, the consciousness B, Mano Vijnana, associates the Rūpa that has arisen one mind moment before it, because it's in its fullest strength. It doesn't associate the heart base which has arisen together with it, because the heart base is weaker at that moment. Weaker. Now we say, for example, at the moment of Patisandhi Chitta associates a weaker heart base. That is also one reason, as given by some commentators, why it cannot produce Chittaja Rūpa. Because it's associating a weak heart base. Heart base is weaker during its genesis. During its genesis. Then, it doesn't associate a heart base that has arisen much before the previous consciousness, because by that time, heart base has deteriorated, already old aged. So the best heart base to associate is the heart base that has arisen with the previous consciousness. That is the logic behind this explanation. But this logic has some, we can see a problem here when we scrutinize this issue. What I want to say is there is a very logical explanation for this phenomenon, saying that Mano-Vijnana always associate the heart base that has arisen together with the previous consciousness, because it is the best heart base that a consciousness could obtain. Right? Now, before going into this, I would like to show the strength of the Rūpa. How do we explain the strength of the Rūpa in terms of its pachayas, the causes, and during how it happen, how it can be explained during the course of its life, during the course of its life. So I shall draw a diagram here. Now this is the time T and the strength of the Rūpa, strength. Now every reality arises suddenly out of the causes. So it's not something starts from the strength for example, there was no strength regarding that particular reality, which suddenly pops up. For example, it was not existing and suddenly it comes up. We all know when you start something, when a vehicle is started, when a vehicle starts moving, it always comes with a plus force, always a plus force. Suddenly it jerks into a certain speed, right? So therefore, the strength of the Rūpa is powerful, is not in the zero when it begins, it arises. Arising is a sort of a plus incident. So out of nothing, suddenly it comes into the existence. So it's a plus force, I would call. So the Rūpa is getting stronger during its arising period. It gets stronger. But there is another phenomenon, according to, as explained in the commentaries, and Paramattha Dipani has specifically mentioned this phenomenon, mentioned this very clearly. It is obstructed by another phenomenon. What is that? That is called Jara, obstructed. Jara is the aging. It's a phenomenon. Jara is a phenomenon. According to the commentaries, persisting, Titi and Jara are equal. Titi and Jara are equal. But according to some scholars, Jara is a phenomenon affecting the Rūpa, affecting the Nama. It's not the persisting phase. Jara even happens in the arising phase even. It's a phenomenon that opposes the strengthening of a Rūpa, or of a reality, sorry, I beg your pardon, any reality that is conditioned, except Nibbana, which is not affected by this phenomenon. Now, when a reality arises out of nothing means it's based on causes, it arises newly, then one can ask, was there any other reality beyond that? We are not going to discuss about such thing. The Buddhism has not touched upon such concepts. Now, it comes newly. So it's a plus force. Arising is coming from nothingness to existence. Nothingness to existence is something happening newly, right? Something happening newly. Now, this is a plus incident. Plus force is going on. If this force is not obstructed by an opposing phenomenon, it keeps on. It has to keep. It would keep on increasing. It would keep on increasing, and the reality would eventually get stronger and stronger, and become and would last forever. Why it is not happening? It's been opposed by a certain phenomenon called aging. It's a phenomenon. In some books, this phenomenon has been explained as a fire, in a subjective definition. Jara weakens the reality, and then as a phenomenon, the reality goes under this phenomenon of weakening, and it gets weakened. Both the approaches are okay in explaining this. I'm not relying on the explanation saying that the Jara and Titi are equal. Right? I'm saying it as a phenomenon here. Now, from the moment it has arisen, if it is obstructed by this phenomenon of Jara, reality is obstructed by, as soon as a reality arises, it is obstructed by this phenomenon of Jara. So instead of having a straight line, or it would have been, for example, if no Jara, it would have been something like this, because it's a plus force, right? It would have been something, even as something, but still it would have been like this if it was constantly increasing, if it is constantly increasing. But instead of these two lines, what happens is the strengthening goes, the line goes like this. Why is that? It's been opposed by another phenomenon. There's a opposing negative force going on. Therefore, the strength of the Rūpa increases, but it's increasing. I'm not very familiar with the technical terms of this. The ratio of its increasing decreases. Instead of going in a straight line, I hope you will understand what I mean here. So it it goes into a curve, it happens in a curved line. Then at a certain, now Titi means, ending of Genesis means after some period, it's not increasing anymore. It's increasing. This increasing of the strength stops. When it comes to its peak moment, when it comes to the peak moment, this stops. Right? It stops. Stops means it's no more increasing. So this is the arising moment. Arising. This is the arising period. Uppada kala. Then it enters into the Titi phase, and it would slowly, gradually weakens and passes away. It would slowly weakens, and at one moment suddenly passes away. Right? Suddenly passes away. This is the vanishing period. Right? This is the vanishing. This is the Titi phase, persisting phase. Takes 49 sub-mind moments. Now what happens is, why do we say Rūpa is stronger in the persisting phase? It seems like it should be stronger in the arising. It reaches the culmination at the arising phase. But what happens is, some supportive forces are given as soon as it enters the persisting phase. Supports are given by Tejo Dhatu, Tejo, Oja and Nama mentalities. The Rūpa is supported as soon as it enters the persisting phase. Therefore, instead of weakening from its original position where it entered the persisting phase, instead of weakening from that position, the strength suddenly, there is a jerk, there is an increasing of its strength. Why is that? Because it's been given extra support. It's been given extra support. If we go further, then this increasing is also weakened by Jara. Right? It's also weakened by Jara. So one can say, if Jara was not there, it would have increased much, but it stops at a certain level. Right? It stops at a certain level because due to being affected by Jara. So it increases to a certain level. Then it starts to decrease gradually and enters into the vanishing phase and passes away. So this is what is actually happening, not the yellow color line, this bit brownish line. The reason is, now therefore I shall we shall cut this line. Right? It's not happening in reality. Due to the support given by some other factors, the strength of the Rūpa increases and it starts to decrease. So that is why it is mentioned that the Rūpa is in its fullest power, strength at the moment of Titi, persisting phase. Why is that? Some extra phenomenon, additional supports are given. Some extra supports are given at that moment. Now, in terms of time, in terms of the phases, according to the commentary, this arising takes only one sub-mind moment. Vanishing takes one sub-mind moment. Then the remaining 49 are the Titi moment. Now, it enters into the Titi, the persisting at the second sub-mind moment. Then in the third sub-mind, starting from second, third and fourth, it starts to deteriorate. It starts to weaken. Therefore, according to this diagram, Rūpa is strongest in its second sub-mind moment. This would be the star. Second sub-mind moment. Rūpa is strongest at its second sub-mind moment. Not at the first, not in the second or third, not in the third or fourth. In the second, it is most powerful. Therefore, if you go back into this explanation, since the commentators say that Kamaja Rupas arise during each and every sub-mind moment. So now think about this Manovinyana B. It cannot associate the heart base that has arisen together with it because it's weaker. It should be associating something that has arisen before that. So what would be the most suitable heart base to associate? Would it be the heart base? Because each and every moment Kamaja Rupas are arising. Each and every sub-mind moment Kamaja Rupas are arising. So traditionally we say it associate heart base that has arisen together with the previous consciousness. It means by the B consciousness arises, that particular heart base is in its fourth sub-mind moment. Fourth sub-mind moment. The heart base is stronger in its second sub-mind moment. So based on the commentarial explanation, if the consciousness B is going to associate a particular heart base, it should be the heart base that has arisen during the vanishing period of the previous consciousness. If this was the heart base, if it was a heart base that has arisen at the vanishing period, then the consciousness is associating the strongest heart base possible. Right? So instead of associating a heart base that is in the fourth sub-mind moment, instead of associating a heart base that is in the fourth sub-mind moment, it is much logical to assume that the consciousness should be associating a heart base that is in the second sub-mind moment. This is something quite, maybe for some it would be some advanced because you may not know some technical terms on this, but I just want to emphasize that there are some contradictions about the arising of Kamaja Rupas within the tradition, right? So that's what I have mentioned in the paragraph number 2142. Based on the commentarial explanations and based on the assumption that I made that according to some other information that I find, that consciousness is associating the strongest heart base possible. If it is the logic behind it, because that's an assumption that I make. Because that was made on several other teachings found in the doctrine. If that is the case, if the consciousness is associating the strongest heart base, it should not be associating a heart base that has arisen 3 mind moments ago or 4 mind moments ago. Should be associating a heart base that has arisen just 1 mind moment ago. So it means it should be associating the heart base that has arisen together with the vanishing of the previous consciousness instead of arising with the previous consciousness. Arising of the previous consciousness. Then, so this is the explanation. Now, this can be counter-argued by someone saying that 2.143. So there can be some counter-arguments on this. Argument 1. Instead of saying that the consciousness is associating the strongest heart base, if someone brings an argument, no, it is the natural law of the mind to associate the heart base that has arisen together with the previous consciousness. You don't need to find a logic behind it. You just say that's a natural law, the consciousness is associating a heart base that has arisen together with the previous consciousness, even though there are some heart bases which are much stronger than that. Therefore, it is not necessary to find a logic behind as the mind associates the strongest material base. So, that is one approach one can counter what I am saying. Then, I am countering my own explanations, right? So, this is how we look into the doctrine with an unbiased approach. That's what I am going to make. I am going to be more and more objective on analyzing them. Right? Argument 2. A kalapa is strongest not at its second sub-moment but at its fourth sub-mind moment. So if someone relies on the phenomenon, on the argument that the consciousness does associate the strongest heart base, then he would say no, it's not stronger at the second moment, at the fourth moment. If someone brings such an argument, Therefore, the mind consciousness depends upon the heart base that has arisen together with the previous consciousness. But this argument, if someone says such an argument, this argument needs to be proven, and it seems not easy because you have to show it in a diagram based on all the information that you get with the doctrine, and show no, heart base is stronger at the fourth moment rather than the second moment. But but when we look into the information that at hand, it seems like the heart base is stronger in the second sub-mind moment. But if someone brings such an argument, I cannot fully reject it, but then one has to bring more evidence to show that heart base is getting stronger during this period and then starts to deteriorate, which is not an easy task to do. Then the fundamental two, if you remember, I said that I'll be evaluating these two notions against two fundamentals. This is the first fundamental, the heart-based fundamental. Then the clashing fundamental. Clashing is not clashing of people, the clashing of sensitivities with the sense objects. Sensitivity with the sense object. For instance, for example, eye sensitivity and the Rūpa strikes at each other, right? The Rūpa causes an image to appear in the eye sensitivity. So the sensitivity is called pasada. Then the sense object is called gochara Rūpa. Gochara Rūpa is the sense object. They clash at each other. It is mentioned in books normally. Now, if there are various sense objects, the very vivid one, the obscure, the unclear one, we are talking about a very vivid. It's called ati mahantarammana. Ati mahantarammana object. A very vivid object. According to the explanations that we have today, because the explanation that we learn has come from a tradition, so we cannot just deny it. Normally the heart-based theory, I haven't found it in any commentary yet, but it seems like the tradition holds the idea that the consciousness is associating the heart base that has arisen together with the previous consciousness. That's the normal explanation that we study, right? I don't know from where it came from, where it came. But now, similarly, we also have a fundamental saying that the sense object and the sensitivity, very vivid sense object I'm referring to, clash at each other. They do not clash at their genesis. They do not clash at their genesis. Why is that? Rūpa is quite weak. Rūpa is quite weak. Now, if this is the sense object, for example, and this is the sensitivity, they have arisen at the same moment. Right? They have arisen at the same moment. So if we think about the sub-mind moments, now, no, we have to draw it much clearer. Have to erase a few. The pasada. Now think. Now this is the sense object. This is the sensitivity. They strike at each other. These are the sub-mind moments of their existence. Okay, it keeps on going till 17 moments or 51 sub-mind moments. This is the sense object. This is the sensitivity. Pasada and the object. Now, this doesn't count. Now, this is the first sub-mind moment, second, third. First, second, third. According to the information we have, they arise together. At that time, the consciousness is called Atita Bhavanga. TI. Atita. I think some listeners would not be familiar with it. Sorry for that. For the ones who have studied the Chitta Vitis and so forth. I'm talking about a very fundamental and scrutinizing this quite advancedly. Now, Atita Bhavanga consciousness. It appears, it persists and vanishes. It takes 3 sub-mind moments. Then, next consciousness is called Bhavanga Chalana, NA. It also has 3 sub-mind moments. So, it has 3 sub-mind moments. Based, according to the lifespan of the Rūpa, it's 4th, 5th and 6th. Then Bhavanga Upacheda DA 7, 8, 9. Now it says 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It says that, it is said in the books, that the clash happens at the fourth submind moment. This is the moment they clash with each other. This is the moment they clash with each other. I think some of you have studied that they clash at the first moment and manifest at the fourth submind moment. That is an explanation found in a very ancient sub-commentary, which has been rejected by all the subsequent sub-commentaries. So therefore, I rely upon the most mostly accepted notion that of the Atimahantaramana, the clash happens at the fourth submind moment, that is the arising moment of Bhavanga Chalana. But I also have to emphasize that there is an opinion in a very ancient, the most ancient sub-commentary for Abhidhammatta Sangaha, stating that the clash happens at the first submind moment, but it manifests at the fourth submind moment. That's how you study in the ITBMU as well, right? It is a very ancient knowledge. Anyway, right? I'm not accusing on that. That's how the explanation goes. But Vibhavini, Paramatta Deepani and sub-commentators are of the opinion that not one, few sub-commentators are of the opinion clash has to happen at the fourth submind moment. Now, think, why this clash doesn't happen at the first submind moment? Because it's weak. The Rūpa is weak. Rūpa is weaker. It happens at the fourth submind moment. Why? Why the clash couldn't happen at the second and the third? This is a big question. A question that I always had whenever I started studying the Chitta Vrittis. Why can't it clash at the second and third submind moment? No much explanation is given on this. Not much explanation is given on this. So it seems the question would still remain. Can't the clash happen? Now for this, what I'm saying, there can be two counter arguments as before. If you move on to page number 2.145. 2.145. One can say argument. You don't need to find any logic behind it. It's a natural law that very vivid sense objects and sensitivities strike at their fourth sub-moment. Hence the striking takes place at the arising moment of the Bhavanga Chalana. Arising moment of the Bhavanga Chalana. Strikes happens at this. Or someone would say sense objects are strong at the fourth moment rather than the previous three moments. So still it has to be explained. But there's another explanation for this. One other explanation for this. One would say, okay, now we study that the clash happens at the fourth submind moment. Clash happens at the fourth submind moment. But it is possible a clash between the sense object and the sensitivity which causes the happening of viti. Clashes do happen, but not all the clashes causes a viti to happen. Not all the clashes causes a viti to happen, especially making the eye consciousness to appear on the eye base. So I'm talking about a clash that would bring forth a viti. There is another point of view. Yes, the clash could happen at second and third, and still the viti could process. The question is, if a clash happens here, would the Bhavanga vibrates? Because the Bhavanga vibration happens as a result of the clash. So when the clash, I'm talking about, I'm referring to the ancient commentary. I'm referring to the other commentaries. Due to the clash, as soon as the clash happens, the Bhavanga vibrates. That is the impact on the Bhavanga as well. So if the clash happens on second or third in a very vivid object, does the Atita Bhavanga vibrates at that time? Is a question to be answered. No, I'm done with the commentary, and also I think I'm done with the time as well here. So anyway, I'll move on to the Mula Tika and quickly explain the remaining opinion. So these are the arguments of the commentary. Now we have evaluated the two fundamentals about the heart base and about the clash of the sense objects and the sensitivity against the notion, number one, commentarial notion. What was the notion? There were two basic fundamentals. Consciousness has 3 sub-moments, but the Rūpa has 51 sub-mind moments, taking one moment each for the rising and vanishing, and enters into his persisting phase at the second sub-mind moment, and during each and every sub-mind moment, Kammaja-rūpas arise. And we also discussed how, then about the heart base rule of the heart base, and how a Rūpa logically is stronger in the second sub-mind mode according to the information that we have today. Then about the clashing incident. Now we move on to the Mūlatīka's explanation. Mūlatīka, how do we bring these, how do we evaluate these two fundamentals based on the notion of Mūlatīka? Mūlatīka has, the basic two fundamentals are quite different of Mūlatīka. Mūlatīka, sub-commentary. The two fundamentals are, it says Chitta is considered one Chittakkana mind moment. Chittakkana, one mind moment, and it is equal to two Anuchittakkana. Two sub-mind moments. What are they? Arising and vanishing only. Arises, vanishes, no persisting. Right? Arises and vanishes. This is a sub-commentary. It comes into this idea based on the Chitta Yamaka. And Lady Shadow suggests that it has some basis, and it seems like he is of this opinion as well of the Mūlatīka. He gives an explanation in example given from Kathavatu, and starts to argue that it seems like the ancient, very ancient Theravadians were of the opinion that the consciousness had just. Then, the next most important fundamental. Now, when the consciousness is happening, two phases are going on, right? Two phases, arising and passing, not like the commentarial explanation. Kammaja-rūpa, so any other Rūpa, not only Kammaja, any other Rūpa in a human living body occurs only during the arising phase, not at the vanishing phase. According to the commentary, Kammaja-rūpa arises during each sub-moment. But the Mūlatīka says no, only with the arising of a consciousness. Why does he come into this conclusion? Based on Yamaka. Based on Yamaka. I'll read out the reference for this. Now, before that, we'll go to the second fundamental he's explaining. Now, this is it. Arising only at the arising genesis of a consciousness. The second fundamental is Rūpa arises and persists and passes away. He is okay with that. That is the normal idea. But according to him, it is of 16 full moments, full consciousness moments. If you remember, according to the commentaries, it is 17 mind moments. 17 mind moments. The Mūlatīka is of the opinion of 16 mind moments. Sixteen mind moments. But there's another huge difference. Now, according to Mūlatīka, arising and vanishing takes an entire mind moment, not a sub-mind moment. So in terms of sub-mind moments, the entire Rūpa is 32, right? 32 sub-mind moments. Why is that? Because 16 mind moments instead of 17, and it has only one consciousness has only 2 sub-mind moments, not 3, right? So it is with Rūpa is 32 sub-mind moments. Out of the 32, 2 goes for the arising, consumes, is consumed. 2 is consumed for the vanishing. So remaining 28 for the persisting. Now you can see, because one consciousness is made out of two sub-mind moments. So instead of talking about sub-mind moments, we can say the Rūpa arises with a one mind moment. Instead of saying sub-mind, instead of calling it sub-mind moment, it's easy to say as Rūpa arises in one mind moment and vanishes during one mind moment and persists during 14 mind moments instead of sub-mind moments. Okay, even we say sub-mind moments, mind moment doesn't matter now, right? So these are the basic fundamentals of Mula Tika, completely different from the commentary. Now we are going to explain how valid these fundamentals are. How do we evaluate them against the other two fundamentals of a hard base and the fundamental of the clashing. Before that, why did the commentator came into this explanation, sub-commentator? That is explained in the paragraph 2.148. In order to justify the first notion is Rūpa arises only at the beginning of the Chitta, together with at the arising phase of the Chitta. Mula Tika has brought evidence from the Yamaka, Satya Yamaka. Yassa dukkha satyang uppajjati, tassa samujaya satyang nirujjati. When the dukkha satya arises, this samudaya vanishes to him. Right? Rūpa is dukkha satya. Rūpa is including the dukkha satya. Samudaya is tanha. It belongs to the mentalities. The question is asked, now when samudaya lobha is vanishing, does Rūpa arise? Does any dukkha satya arise to him? No. Answer is no in the Yamaka. So this is the evidence that he is bringing. Whenever consciousness, because all the Rūpas are dukkha satya. Samudaya is mentality, lobha. So whenever a lobha is passing away, does Rūpa or any dukkha satya arises? No. So what does it mean? Rūpas can never arise at the vanishing phase of a consciousness. That is his argument. Yassavapana samudaya satyang nirujjati tassa dukkha satyang uppajjati. So then the next question is yassa dukkha satyang nirujjati. First question is dukkha satyang nirujjati tassa samudaya satyang uppajjati. For example, when a Rūpa is dukkha satya includes Rūpa as well. Now when a Rūpa is passing away, during that time, does samudaya, lobha or any chitta arises? No. No. And the other way, when the nama is passing away, Rūpa doesn't arise. So based on this fundamental, he mentions Rūpa arises together with the chitta and vanishes with chitta. Vanishes with chitta. Arises together with chitta, vanishes with chitta. That is his explanation. So therefore, he comes into this first fundamental. Second fundamental, the time consumed for the arising and vanishing. 2.149. The second notion of the Mula Tika is based on the argument that the lifespan of a Rūpa flows in a slower speed compared to that of mentalities. You can see, I couldn't give you the reference, sorry for that, in the Vibhanga commentary. Right? It's slower. The speed of the Rūpa is slower. Therefore, while it takes one sub-mind moment each for a mental cluster to arise, it takes only one sub-mind moment for the mental cluster to arise and vanish. A material cluster slowly arises throughout the entire one mind moment, it means two sub-mind moments, and vanishes throughout the entire mind moments, that is two sub-mind moments. Because it's slower, its existence is slower. Now, based on these two, right, we'll go into explain the Hadevattu rule and the clashing rule, right? The rule of clashing. Now, Hadevattu. Manoviññāna. What is the rule of the tradition? Manoviññāna doesn't associate the Hadevattu that has, now according to this, two sub-mind moments, okay? Consciousness has two sub-mind moments, not three. Hadevattu doesn't associate, Manoviññāna doesn't associate a Hadevattu that has arisen together with it. No. it associates a Hadevatu that has arisen together with the previous consciousness. Together with the previous consciousness. So this has 1, 2, 1, no, this, so, right? So it goes on. It associates a heart base that has arisen together with the previous consciousness. Now, according to the Mula Tika, think about this. Think about this heart base. Heart base B. So A. Heart base A. This is heart base B. This is B. This is A consciousness. Consciousness B cannot associate heart base B because heart base is weak at that time. It should associate a stronger heart base. So best option would be not the older ones, the youngest. So that would be the heart base that has arisen together with the Manovinyana. So this heart base has arisen together with this A Manovinyana. Heart base A has arisen together with the Manovinyana A. And now, if you remember the fundamental, it takes 2 sub-mind moments for the Rūpa to come into the persisting phase. And Rūpa is strongest. Rūpa is strongest at the persisting phase, as it enters into the persisting phase. Now see, according to this explanation, Rūpa, when does this Rūpa enters the persisting Titikala? Because it takes 2 sub-mind moments or one mind moment for the Rūpa to arise. This is still Genesis, arising. Then at the, pardon, I'll draw it much better, right? 1, 2, this is 3, 4, right? Now, according to the Mula Tika's explanation, Rūpa takes complete mind moment for the arising. In terms of sub-mind moments, 2 sub-mind moments are taken for the arising. Then it enters into the persisting phase at the 3rd sub-mind moment. That is the moment as soon as it enters the persisting phase. That is the moment. According to the Mula Tika, I'll repeat again, Mula Tika, the Rūpa comes into the persisting phase after 2 sub-mind moments. After 2 sub-mind moments. It's a one mind moment, one entire mind moment. And we know that based on the diagram, Rūpa is strongest as soon as it enters the persisting phase. Then, therefore, the logic applies here. So, the Rūpa, the heart base A that has arisen together with the Manovinyana A comes into its strongest phase at the 3rd sub-mind moment. That is the arising moment of the Manovinyana B. So the most suitable heart base for it to associate would be the heart base A that has arisen together with the previous consciousness. So that's how we evaluate that fundamental with the Mula Tika reference. Then the clash. We can conclude now quickly. The clash theory. Sense object and the sensitivity. Sense object and the sensitivity. These are the sub-mind moments. Now keep in mind, according to Mula Tika, there are only 2 sub-mind moments, right? 1, 2, 3. Now these are the sub-mind moments going on. 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Atita Bhavanga, 2 sub-mind moments. Bhavanga Chalana, 2 sub-mind moments. Bhavanga Upachcheda, 2 sub-mind moments. So the Rūpa takes an entire mind moment, 2 sub-mind moments for the arising. During the arising, this is the sensitivity, sense object, this sensitivity. During this arising moment, Rūpa is weaker, so they cannot clash at this moment. So the earliest moment they can clash, it's a very vivid object. So the vivid object should clash at the earliest possible moment. So the earliest possible moment to clash would be the third submind moment. So a possible clash occurs. And that as the Rupa's face of Rupa is determined, is explained based on mind moments according to Mulatika rather than submind moments. We can say during this phase there would be a clash. Either at the beginning or the entire moment. It doesn't matter. The clash happens at this moment. So therefore, even that, so we don't need to worry about clashing during the Atita Bhavanga period. So it seems like the Mulatika explanation can give very lucid, logical explanations about the heart-based theory and the theory of the clashing of sensitivity with the sense object. So I'll be concluding this. Now these are the two prevailing ideas we started, the notion 1 and notion 2. According to the commentary, Kamaja-rupas arise at each and every submind moment, and one submind moment each is consumed for the genesis and vanishing. Based on that, when we evaluate the heart-based theory and the clashing theory, there are some difficulties in explaining them very logically. But when we come, the Mulatika has different notions about this. It explains Kamaja-rupas arise only at the arising phase of a consciousness, and the consciousness is with two submind moments, and entire mind moment is consumed for the arising and passing away of a consciousness, since due to its slower speed in its existence. So likewise, so based on that, we found that the theory of heart-based, theory related to heart-based, and the theory of clash could be explained with much logic, right? So these are the explanations that I would like to give. So this shows that there have been some disagreements within the tradition, and that's the tradition. That's how the tradition is, since it has been a long period after the Buddha has passed away. But all these would I explained them thinking that this would always increases our insights and ways of thinking, and how do we approach the doctrine with a logical perspective. So, and it all shows that all the Rupa and Nama is still working. There is no disagreement about Nama and Rupa. There is no disagreement about the causality. There is no disagreement about the non-selfness. But there are subtle disagreements regarding subtle issues like this. So I conclude the lecture and open the forum for the Q&A session.
Hi, Bhante. The theory advocated by the sub-commentator still does not explain the association with the 5 sense bases and the 5 sense consciousnesses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we know that, for example, if we take the case of the Atita Mahāvihāra, then one of the fundamentals says that one of the 5 sense consciousnesses have to depend on the sense base arising at the Atita Bhavanga. It's not right before it, but it's all the way back there. So how we going to explain that then?
Yeah, that is another very good question. Now, what Dr. Ryan is saying now, we mentioned associating the stronger heart base, and that would be the heart base that has arisen immediately before the consciousness that was immediately before. Then how about he's asking how about the sense consciousness, the remaining sense consciousnesses. For example, eye consciousness. Now, according to the theory, Atita Bhavanga, Bhavanga Chalana, Bhavanga Upacheda, Panchadvara Vajjana, and Chakku Vijnana. Right? Then Sampatichana and Santirana goes on. Now this Chakku Vijnana, they associate, now each and every consciousness is associating the heart base that has arisen before, together with the consciousness before it. Now Chakku Pasada, now the sense object clashes here with the sense object is clashing with the sensitivity. Now if this is the sensitivity, for example, this is the sense object, Chakku Pasada is associating a sensitivity that has arisen together with the Atita Bhavanga, right? Instead, it would have arisen Why is not? Because the strongest Chakkupasada would be the Chakkupasada that has arisen with the Panchadwara Vajjala Chitta. But it is associating Chakkupasada that has arisen with the Atita Bhavanga. For this, the reason seems like this process occurs due to a clash. So therefore, though there are much stronger Chakkupasadas, since the process has started with a clash, so the strength should be known on the incident of clashing, not what sort of vijnana would have, what sort of heart base would the Chakkupasada associates. Because Chakkupadata would have no other option than associating the sensitivity that had the clash. Because when the sense object clashes, the sensitivity undergoes a change. I think we explained this in the Chakku Vijnana, that like Chakkupasada, like what happens to the negative exposed to the light. So according to Paramadipani, there is a change happening in the Chakkupasada. So Chakku Vijnana is associating this pasada that has caused the Bhavanga Chalana and started the process. Therefore, in that regard, the sense Vijnana, Chakku Vijnana, doesn't have the opportunity to associate the strongest base which has arisen before it, but to associate the base that has had the clash. So that's how we explain why this phenomenon is not applicable to the sense consciousness.
I see. Okay, interesting.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. May I ask a question regarding the lecture yesterday?
Yes, sure.
Yes. So yesterday, we talked about, because you gave the lecture with the karma that gives the producers each individual rupa, right? Instead of produces the whole kalapa. So if that's the case, then if we think about that, then one question might arise is that at one moment, how many karmas can place the role of Janaka karma?
Yeah, it's a very that is also a very tough question, because now what I was mentioning regarding, I was going to explain that the electricity was interrupting. Though I explain based on individual rupas, I was referring to the entire kalapa. So even in the today's handout, I have some places I have referred as Rūpa and some places as Kalapa, because interchangeably Rupas appear in Kalapas and we cannot discuss about Rupas individually. So when we say Jivitindriya is supporting the body, actually it's the Kalapa that is supporting the body. But since in the explanations, in the commentaries and in the text, separate Rupas have been explained to give the support. So I go in the individual Rupa path, but we have to keep in mind the end. What matters in the end, what matters means what is actually happening is the Kalapa. Because when Kamma produces the Rupa, it produces the Kalapa. All the Rupas in the same Kalapa produced by the same karma. Then the question comes, various Kammas can produce various Kammaja Kalapa. So how many Kammas can perform the Janaka functions at the same time? With regard to Rupa, it seems, I'll be discussing them in the next lecture about this topic. It seems like Chakku, Sota, Gana and Jivha can be produced by 4 different Kammas. Then Hadaya, Jivita, Kaya. Hadaya, Jivita, Navaka, Kaya, and also Bhava. Bhava, I was explaining something different yesterday. I would give a more explanation about it in the next week, because seems like what I said was something not very accurate. So I'll discuss that in the next week. So for the time being, I would say Hadaya, Kaya, Jivita and Bhava Kalapas are produced by the same karma that gave the Patisandhi. Chakku, Sota, Gana, Jivha could be different karmas. So it seems like 5 different karmas could do the Janaka function in Rūpa. Then Nama, while 5 different kammas are producing 5 these kalapas, Nama process could be a Janaka kamma a different Janaka kamma would act in the Nama process as well. So it seems like 6 Janaka kammas. Could act at the same moment producing Nama Rūpa.
I see. I just want to be clear, but this is that 5 or 6 kammas can be perform the function of Janaka at the same time on the same
person.
Let's see, organization of Rūpa or Nama.
I was telling in the Rūpa or Rūpa realm of Rūpa, Chakku can be produced by one karma, Sota by kamma B, kamma A Chakku, kamma B Chakku, Sota, kamma C Gana, D Jivha, E is producing heart, Jivita, Bhava and Kaya all together. So it seems 5 are acting on Rūpa while a complete different kamma could be acting in the Nama process.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bhante.
So it's a very good way to look into this question. Thank you for that question actually. So it seems according to this explanation we can come into a sort of conclusive idea that 6 Janaka kammas could perform in a one living person. Maximally 6 could perform Janaka function at one moment.
I see. Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu.
Sir, may I ask my question?
Yes, please, Mr. Kamal Jagat.
My question is: are the matters generated by path consciousness suffering?
The matter produced by path consciousness. Path consciousness can produce only Chittaja Rūpa. It would never produce Kammaja Rūpa, right? Because path consciousness is not giving a rebirth. It doesn't give a rebirth and it doesn't produce any Kammaja Rūpa in the following life, right? In the following life. Maybe because it's again, now Kammaja Rūpa and Vipaka Chitta Chetasikas are Lokiya Vipaka Chitta Chetasikas are the Bhava. Bhava is the life, suffering, right? So path consciousness is not contributing for the sort of existence of the samsara, but it produces palachitta which is not included in the dukkha satya. Then as a result of the strength of the path consciousness, some chittaja rūpas do arise. Chittaja rūpas, they keeps the body in the same posture which it had before. Now, before entering the pala, if there was a certain posture, the magga, before entering the magga, if there was a certain posture, the chittaja rūpas that appear with them would not break it, would not change the posture. These chittaja rūpas are still dukkha satya, So it's not. So there are few outcomes. Outcome as a result of the path consciousness, the chittaja rūpas are happening. Then as a result, this path consciousness is producing a vipaka. That vipaka, it doesn't produce a dukkha satya vipaka. It doesn't produce a vipaka that belongs to the dukkha satya. But as an outcome of the as a consciousness, in the process of consciousness, this path consciousness produces some material clusters which belong to the dukkha ariya satya.
Okay, clear. Thank you much for your answers.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. Sadhu. Please go ahead. I don't know if this Mr. or Miss Kitsiri.
Mr. Kitsiri.
Teruvan Saranai, Reverend Bhante.
Okay.
I have never been this close to you physically in my previous discussions.
Okay.
I am in your premises now.
Okay,
I am
welcome.
sitting in your premises.
Okay, welcome to IIT.
So my question, there are two questions. One arising from what the doctor asked
Actually, when you take the Chakku Vijnana Viti, Chakku Dwara Viti, in that heart base is active in the first 3 moments, I believe. Atita Bhavanga, and then Bhavanga Chalana, and Bhavanga Upacheda. Up to that point, the heart base is active. But thereafter, Panchadwara Vajjana, is it on heart base or Chakku base, eye base, is I'm not sure. Then of course Chakku Vijnana has to come from Chakku base, and thereafter Santirana and Sampatichana, and when it comes to Votapana, again we are changing to heart base. Is that understanding right? Is my first question.
In the entire Viti, only Chakkupasada is associating the Chakku base. Every other consciousness associates the heart base. So what we have to keep in mind is only the sense consciousnesses, Chakku, Sota, Gana, Juha, Kaya, Vijnanas associate their relevant bases. Every other consciousness that arises while arising in the realm of 5 aggregates, Panchavokara, human, divine, woeful, human, divine, and Brahma, except Asanya Satta, Brahma realms, always consciousness other than these 10 depends on heart base. Whatever consciousness arises in them. There are 4 consciousness that would not arise in Panchavokara. They are the 4 resultant of the Arupa consciousness that are only exclusive to the Arupa realm. So we need not to worry about them. Any consciousness that arises in the realm of 5 aggregates other than the 10 sense consciousness, 2 Chakku, 2 Sota, 2 Gana, Juha and Kaya each, always associate, remaining consciousness associate the heart base.
With that answer, I will refer to the answer you gave to Doctor. That is, you said in the case of Chakku Vijnana, by going by the Mula Tika or the Purana Tika, that there are 4 mind moments. It is associating with the Chakku base, which originated 4 mind moments before the Chakku Vijnana. So what I am asking is that because the heart base is more powerful than the heart base Santati is more powerful than the Chakku base Santati, and that is probably the consciousness is fighting to do the transfer from one to another, and that is getting delayed by 2 moments. So this is, I'm just asking.
To be true, you have to recap the question again. I didn't get the essence of the question still.
Yes. Now, actually, in your diagram, you very clearly showed the Chakku Vijnana arises. I mean, you said that it is best for it to associate with the Chakku base, which started probably with
Atita Bhava. You mean
yes.
this or this?
Yes. You said before 2 mind moments, it would have been the best.
This one mind moment, yeah.
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 So it is really associating now with the one which is which is 4 mind moments before.
Right.
So the reason, as far as what is coming to my mind, is that it is because the heart base stream is more powerful than any other sense base stream, and it is causing that delay probably for the Chakku Vijnana or any other Dwara Vijnana to arise, Panchadwara Vijnana to arise.
No. What I was telling was, now if it has to associate the strongest Chakku base, according to theory, surely it should be the Chakku base that has arisen together with the Panchadwara immediately previous Chitta. There is no doubt about that. But the thing is, why this process starts? It starts due to a clash. And due to that clash, there is a physical change in the pasada. And the Chakku is arising on that particular pasada which underwent the physical change as well. So therefore, What is now? There is no way that the chakku could associate any other heart base other than what the heart, any other eye base. Sorry, there is no way that the chakku could associate any other eye base other than the eye base which underwent the clash and underwent this physical change and caused this process to happen. This clash is the reason for this bhavanga to vibrate and to cause this process to happen. So therefore, the entire process is depending on this clash. When the chakku arises, it has no other option other than associating this particular chakku base. That's what I refer. In terms of the strength, if we take, the best would be the chakku base which has happened one mind moment before. But since due to some other reasons, it is associating the eye base that has happened few mind moments ago.
Okay, may I have your permission to ask a question about yesterday's lecture?
Okay,
that is, based on your concept too, even in the animal realm, there are animals who have probably very superior ability with their eye or nose or various senses, which are sometimes better than the human beings, because certain animals can hear sounds which we can't hear. Certain animals can smell smells which we cannot smell. So the fineness seems to be greater. And also, I am also told that some of the animals even possess the ability to see their previous births, Ubbe Nivasanasati or something similar to that. There are people who are carrying habits from their previous births, and similarly, even there are people who are sometimes born with disabilities of the normal functioning of the body, but still their mental capabilities are sometimes seems to be superior, because they seem to be having superior abilities to see the past or whatever. How do we explain that is really the question. So it seems to be it's according to that notion too, which you explained yesterday.
Thank you for that answer. But the thing is, if you keep in mind, we also mentioned a very strong notion that cannot be violated, is that in the woeful realm, no kusala kamma is producing kamaja rupas. In the blissful realm, no akusala kamma is producing kamaja rupas. So even though the animal possesses very sharp senses than us, than humans, according to Abhidhamma, those senses are not produced by kusala kammas, but akusala kammas only. So then the question comes, how could they possess such superior faculties over us? There are two reasons for this. One is the rule of the yoni. Yoni means the realm they are born into. I have discussed this in the first series of Paramatta. There is a phenomenon that governs the nature of some beings, nama rupa, the nature, their capacities, abilities are governed by this phenomenon of yoni niyama. Therefore, it is a law of nature that certain species has the ability to fly, to see far than us, and to sense, be sensitive to the sounds than we do. Like this dog has a very strong sensitivity for the smell, right? So likewise, so that is determined by the niyama, the law of species, yoni niyama. Then the next reason is, if a certain akusala kamma is producing a certain faculty, this kamma could be supported by a kusala kamma. Now the question comes, when a kusala kamma is affecting the akusala, doesn't it get weaker and the outcome would be something else? No, this support is like, though akusala is producing a kamaja rupa, that kamaja rupa is supportive for the living of that living being. So he was brought into a bad realm, but if the being gets food in that realm, it is not because of akusala kamma, it's due to a kusala kamma, so he could still sustain in that realm. then it seems like someone can argue if food is given to this being in the woeful realm, it extends his lifespan. So it means in the other way, it is extending his suffering. So is the food brought to the, or if a karma is causing the being to have more food in that life over the other animals, is it done by a kusala karma or akusala karma? Someone can bring a very good argument on this. But according to teachings, still while having food, it enjoys it and it could live happily even in the woeful realm. So normally these are the effects of kusala karmas. It's not that every food is obtained by kusala karma, but if it gets abundant food, like if the animal is born in a very good house or something, he would get all the beneficial effects of he will be taken care very well. So that's why the Buddha mentioned, if someone has given dana but not practiced sila, he would most probably, he or she would be an animal in the king's palace and so forth. He'll be well taken care of. Therefore, even though it is in a woeful realm, if the supporting factors, if the kusala could support it for a happier life. So likewise, even though the kamaja rupa is produced by an akusala, some kusalas may affect it and causes it to have extra abilities, as what happened to the bodhisattva, as mentioned in Jatakas, as what has happened to the bodhisattva in his animal life, some animal life, like special abilities, special appearances. Once he was a golden peacock, which was very attractive. In one life, he was a very strong, well-built, attractive deer. So there are these things could happen. So the extra sensitive ability of sensitivities are either due to the law of the realm. So that's why every dog possesses a sensitivity in smell, to smell, over stronger sensitivity over us. And among them even, some may possess some extra qualities due to good kusala karmas. If akusala karmas are affecting, they may have very low eyesight and so forth. And recalling the past lives, it's a different phenomenon, because Chuti and Patisandhi happens are just one mind moment apart. So therefore, everyone who is born in the next life would surely remember the past life. That's how the law is. But beings who are born in the womb and who lives for a certain period is in an egg and grows gradually, their physical body would tend to forget this due to the suffering they encounter and the new objects they obtain. So they focus at. So that's why we tend to forget our past life. Otherwise, every being would be able to recall the past life, especially the spontaneously born beings would easily recall what happened in their past life and who were they. But the affection is different. Every being likes the present life they are living in rather than the previous life, even though still they could remember it very clearly. Therefore, it is not now, in some cases of humans and animals, sometimes due to various reasons, some may not forget, some may not go under such physical pain, or some may still have a good memory about the past. There are some exceptional cases. That is called Jatisara Jnana, who could remember the past lives. So, and also it can happen due to wishes that we have made, and also due to strong mindfulness developing samsara and wisdom developing samsara. So therefore, bodhisattvas in most of the cases could recall their past lives. Therefore, recalling past life is a different phenomenon. It's nothing related to these kamaja rupas and so forth. Karma can sometimes play a role in it. So therefore, sensitivities of animal realm, that's how we explain the phenomenon, and also the ability to recall past life. It has to be explained in a different approach.
Thank you very much. The subject of karma thing is achintya for the normal, ordinary human beings. That's the teaching of Lord Buddha. So you are explaining very, very complicated subjects in a very clear manner. So we are eternally grateful to you, and thank you very much. And being Swami Lansa, I will see you in a little while.
Sure. Okay. So then we'll conclude the lecture for today, and next week will be another very interesting topic of looking into some notions, and then afterwards I will move on to explain karma, rupa related to karma, rupas not Kammaja Rūpa, but Rūpa related to Kamma, affected by karma. And then we can conclude the Kammaja Rūpa chapter. Yeah. So I hope you enjoy the lecture. With this merit of discussing Dhamma, may all of us be able to attain the supreme bliss Nibbana, and this merit may support the sustaining of the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantithatu, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.